Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the August 16th, 2023 meeting of the Daytona Beach City Commission. We're delighted to have each of you with us. Madam Clerk, may we please have a roll call?
Commissioner Strickland? Here. Commissioner May? Here. Commissioner Cantu? Here. Commissioner Henry? Here. Commissioner Reed?
Here.
Commissioner Paris?
Here.
Mayor Derek L. Henry?
Here.
Okay. We're going to move on to item number 4, which is approval of the minutes. Item 4A is the approval of the minutes of the July 19, 2023 regular city commission meeting.
So moved. Second.
Commissioner Strickland will take the motion. Commissioner May with the second. Do we have any questions or comments? All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those in opposition, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
And then we're going to move on to 4B, which is approval of the amended June 21st, 2023 city commission meeting.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Paris, second from Commissioner Henry. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. This time, we will have our agenda approval. If there are any changes, our city manager will address them.
Yes, Honorable Mayor, Commissioners, we're adding addendum item number 8J, Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund Distribution to the consent agenda. We're adding addendum item number 8K, Bike Week Sponsorship Funds to the consent agenda, and we're moving item 8G to the administrative items. That concludes the changes to the agenda.
Take a motion from Commissioner Reed and a second from Commissioner Cantu. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Okay. Moving on, item number 6, we have no presentations this evening, so we're going to move on to item number 7. During this time, citizens have the opportunity to address the City Commission on any item on the consent agenda. And my only speaker so far is Mr. Frederick Brown.
John, not here.
Did you?
Frederick Brown, 1508 Crescent Ridge, Daytona Beach. On the consent agenda, just want to comment on a couple of things. Hang on, get all my notes right. Item 80, and I've talked to you about this before, and I know you're already way down the highway on this, but you continue to buy steel structures with vinyl coating that don't last. Thank God Dickerson Center got some quality equipment in there, galvanized, that does last, but vinyl coated steel does not. It's proven in Lenox Park. It's proven everywhere else it's been installed. I realize nobody wants to put a lot of money into the beachside parks, but it doesn't make any sense at all to put in equipment that's going to rust away in just a couple of years. So I really wish you would seriously, and I don't know where the fault lies, I know you get staff reports, if somebody would be honest with you and tell you that this stuff does not hold up. Now, Compan, I know the company well, worked with them for many years, great quality stuff, but it's not the proper stuff for our beachside areas. It isn't even good enough for the entire Daytona City. So again, galvanized is the way to go. It lasts. It's the way the playground equipment was when I was a little kid. It's, you know, the galvanized fences, they used to call them 100-year fences because they last 100 years. Well, same thing with the playground equipment. It'll last a lot longer. Again, I can't chastise you guys as much as I can. The staff reports that are picking this stuff, and you really need to take a serious, hard look at this. Regards to item 8F, I think the discussion was pretty widely felt. I am in favor of certainly making affordable housing. I wish there was some cost-effective ways to make more housing in some of these lots. One thing I do ask is please put a little extra filtering in there. We don't need more flooded houses. But I'm very much in favor of this project. And the other comments were made, MMP Boulevard needs to be made the iconic street it should be. We have a major university and a couple more up the street. This should be a center of pride, not a center of urban blight. So I would urge the city to be encouraging to the owners, get something done. We already had one building fall down and collapse. Fortunately, it didn't kill anybody. I still question whether or not the asbestos was properly dealt with. It was in the contract, but again, that's all water under the bridge now. But let's fix up the entire MMB and make it something that people can be proud of, and especially the students that go to that school, so that when they leave, they know they got a great community to come back to. Thank you very much.
That was my only speaker for the consent agenda that signed up for the consent agenda.
All right. Wait. No, who needs to sign up? Somebody want to speak on the consent agenda? Yeah, but you have to, okay, good deal. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Nope.
We have a motion yet for the
Not on
consent
this one?
agenda.
Okay, do I need a motion? Commissioner Reed, Commissioner Strickland now have a motion and a second. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Okay. Okay, we're going to move on to item number 9, which is our public hearings. Item 9A is Growth Management Planning Department Water Supply Plan. This is a large-scale comprehensive plan amendment. This is an introduction of an ordinance on first reading, public hearing. An ordinance adopting comprehensive plan amendments previously transmitted to the State Land Planning Agency with changes in accordance with Chapter 163, Part 2, and 373 Florida statutes, following an update of the original water supply plan approved by St. Johns River Water Management District, adopting amendments to the infrastructure, intergovernmental coordination, coastal management, and capital improvement elements to incorporate the city's revised water supply work plan and add provisions relating to water supply facilities and planning, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
Have a motion from Commissioner May and a second from Commissioner Reed. Do we have any questions or comments? All right, all those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
The public hearing and final action for this item will be October 18th.
And Ms. Collins, just so you know, the lot has been transferred, and I look forward to signing that after the meeting. You're welcome.
Okay. Our next item is, oops.
9B.
Okay. Our next speaker is 9B. I'm sorry, our next item is 9B, is Growth Management and Planning Department, Ridgewood, Fairview, Small Scale Comprehensive Plan Amendment. This is an ordinance on second reading, public hearing. An ordinance adopting a small scale comprehensive plan amendment in accordance with Section 163.3187 of the Florida statutes, amending the future land use map designation of 2.9 plus or minus acres of property generally located along both north and south of Fairview Avenue between Cottrell Avenue and Michigan Avenue from Level 2 residential L2R to office transition OT, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith and providing an effective date. That was Commissioner Parrish.
We take a motion from Commissioner Parrish and a second from Commissioner Strickland. Do we have any questions or comments?
And I have no speakers.
And no speakers. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye. Aye. Those who are opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, we're going to move on to item 9C. It's the Growth Management and Planning Department, Ridgewood Fairview Residential Professional Rezoning. This is an ordinance on second reading, public hearing. An ordinance amending the zoning map of the Lands Development Code to rezone 0.4 plus or minus acres of property generally located along both north and south of Fairview Avenue between Cottrell Avenue and Michigan Avenue from business professional BP to residential professional RP, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith and providing an effective date.
We have a motion from Commissioner May and a second from Commissioner Cantu.
And I have no speakers for this item, Mr. Mayor.
All right. And no comments or questions from the commission. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, moving on to item 9D. It's a growth management planning. First Amendment to Walmart Sam's Club PD. This is an ordinance on second reading, public hearing. An ordinance approving the First Amendment to the Walmart Supercenter Sam's Club Planned Commercial Development Agreement to add telephone call center as a permitted use, authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute the First Amendment, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
So moved.
I'll take Commissioner Cantu and Commissioner Strickland. Cantu on the motion. Strickland in the second.
And I do have Ms. Joey Posey here on behalf of the applicant for any questions.
No questions for Mr. Posey? All right, all those in, you have any, okay, all those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
We're going to move on to item number 10, which is our administrative items. Item number 10A is the City Clerk's Office establishing the Daytona Beach Youth Advisory Board resolution. A resolution establishing the Daytona Beach Youth Advisory Board, establishing composition, providing for election of officers, and providing an effective date.
All right. That's good stuff right there. Y'all know that gets me excited. Okay, I got a motion and a second. We have any questions or comments? All right. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Hip, hip, hooray.
We're going to move on to item 10B, which is the Growth Management Planning Department Biketoberfest 2023 Master Plan on Public Property Resolution. A resolution relating to the Biketoberfest 2023 from October 19th through October 22nd, 2023, providing for certain parking and traffic uses and regulations, suspending parking regulation in commercial areas of the Controlled Parking District from October 9th through October 22nd, in accordance with Section 94-218D of the City Code, authorizing the city to operate paid parking lots at various locations in the Main Street area, authorizing various activities on public property, and providing an effective date.
We have a motion from Commissioner Cantu, second from Commissioner Henry.
And I have no speakers for this item.
All right. Do you have a question?
I do.
All right.
Let the ladies go.
Jim?
I just wanted to ask Mr. Morris or Rose if that parcel that they were talking about on ISB during the Bike Week workshop, was it removed as it was motioned to be removed?
You're talking about 200?
Yeah.
Reference, it wasn't motion to be removed, it was motion to be denied.
A motion to be, so was it
Yes, ma'am.
denied?
And it was denied by the board or recommended for denial. There's a
Okay.
memorandum on the dais that explains the interpretation Ms. Pyle had of the memo, and it was voted to be recommended for denial. The report tells you all about that. It also notes that the commission has the power to approve if you wish. And we don't intend to advocate for it one way or another, but that was the way it was handled by the board or the committee.
Just to be clear, that's for the next item. This is the public property resolution.
I'm just trying to answer the question.
And I just wanted everybody else to understand in case they're trying to follow along with the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
We'll stand by, Mayor.
All right. We have other questions?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So in previous years, each year we have a deadline as to when documents are turned in, permission, request, et cetera. What is the date? Is it September 22nd? Is it now? What is the date? I saw something here, September 22nd. What is the date for that? Please.
Again, probably on the next item, not the one that's on the table. September 22nd is the date by which people that were noted to have deficiencies or incomplete applications or some cure that they needed to make have got by September 22nd to do that. And the effort in allowing the cure period is to have people have the opportunity that would otherwise qualify, but they've got some deficiency, whether it's a code violation, a fine, whatever it might be, to get their property in shape and complete and ready to go by a particular date in order to participate in the master plan.
And what is our decision? How are we handling it? Somebody shows up on the 23rd or the very next commission meeting thereafter and begs to be allowed to enter in. That often happens.
I believe that's within the discretion of the commission to decide what it does. Staff would say to someone, whether they come to us and say, gee, we missed it, or if they showed up here, as a man did, I think, at the last meeting, said we missed it for whatever purpose, it's the discretion of the commission. The staff doesn't have the power, and we would not do anything to include it or do anything. It's all with commission permission and consent.
May I
Yes, ma'am.
interject? And I know this is the next item, but we're already on it. These individuals that are given this extension until September 22nd, have they already applied and we've told them what's
Yes,
wrong?
ma'am. The way it works is the master plan committee goes through their applications that are complete, ready, perfect. There's some that aren't.
Okay.
And those are the things noted in the report. And those folks have the time period allowed to come into compliance, knowing their deficiencies and how to cure. And many of the cures have already happened, and in fact happened before you all saw it last time. But regardless, that's how it's working.
So the answer is yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So my colleagues, I say to you that year after year after year, somebody misses the deadline and they come here begging us to consider it. Let's start putting our foot down. We do Bike-toberfest and Bike Week every year. Every year. It's highly advertised, and it's not fair to those who do it on time. So my question was, and it's been answered by Mr. Morris, that the ones that have until September are the ones who already know they have an issue. So they've been granted an extension of time to get that issue corrected.
That is a correct statement.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So at this point, let the record say, those who've already applied, those who've been approved, and those who have that extended time already, let it be done.
So moved.
Asking that of you.
I completely agree with you. I completely agree with you.
I don't know if I agree, but of course I agree in principle. When they show up, the little 98-year-old lady shows up, and I know they're gonna show up, and I know, and her daughter was my teacher, and I don't know what I'm gonna say, but y'all better change y'all mind.
And we got 4 votes.
Okay, but I
I'm
understand.
I'll stand by, Mayor. I'll just stay here in case.
Okay,
Well, we know who won't come.
that's what I was thinking about too. Okay, any other questions? No other questions? Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Morris.
thank you.
Ma'am.
Did we have a motion in a second?
We did.
We did. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
We're going to move on to item 10C, which is the Growth Management Planning Biketoberfest 2023 Master Plan for Private Property. This is a resolution approving with conditions the Biketoberfest 2023 Master Plan for outside activities on private property and authorizing outside activities during Biketoberfest, October 19th through October 22nd, 2023, pursuant to the City Land Development Code, Section 5.4.C.11, temporary outside activities associated with the festival, establishing conditions for all approved applications and uses, and providing an effective date.
Second.
Got a motion from Commissioner Reed. We'll take a second from Commissioner Strickland. Do we have any questions or comments?
I do have speakers for this item. Our first speaker is Mr. Bitteroff, and on deck is Mr. Tom Guest.
Sorry, I'm kind of tall. I live at 402 East International Speedway Boulevard. What I'm wanting to do is I want to do some fundraising for like the First Step Shelter and some things. I think I reached out to you and some others. And I kind of need the guidance from you on how to do this because I've never done a fundraiser on my property. But I think that as residents that we need to, I gained a lot of respect for this commission tonight, that you all stood up for that lady. She almost had me in tears too, and I was just sitting down and she wasn't talking to me. So I have great faith in the city, and I have great faith in you, Mr. Mayor, and all the commissioners here, and I greatly appreciate you, all of you, and thank you for your dedication. But just help me. Maybe I get with Rose or I find somebody. I just want to do it right, and I want to raise the most money I can for the right cause. So if we find other causes like the First Step Shelter, let's start doing things to help our community better together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Tom Guest, and on deck is Sandy Murphy.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, city staff. My name is Tom Guest. I reside at 721 Garden Lane in Ormond Beach, and I manage property from 608 to 618 Main Street in Daytona Beach. I sit on the Biketoberfest advisory. I've been on the Biketoberfest committee since its inception back in 1992. Anyways, going past that, the Biketoberfest Advisory Committee met July 21st, 2023. I chaired the meeting as vice chair, as the chairman was not available on that date. We met with city staff present. We discussed the master plan for private property as we're charged to do by this body. We found applicants that were not in compliance for minor things, and we agreed that these applicants must get everything updated by a date approved by city staff, which is September 22nd of this year. Everything must comply with the guidelines set forth by the commission. And we found one property at 200 South Atlantic Avenue that is not in compliance with Section 3A of the guidelines because it's not in the area that is outlined by the guidelines. And that is Section 3A says, if you don't have it in front of you, you probably don't, that the outside activity shall be permitted only in open areas permanently licensed year-round businesses which front on the following streets: Main Street and Fairview Avenue from the Atlantic Avenue to Beach Street from Bay Street to Fairview Avenue, Blue Road from Fairview Avenue to Mason Avenue, Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune Boulevard from Seagrave Avenue to Dr. Martin Luther King Boulevard, Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune Boulevard from Beach Street to Palmetto Avenue, Dr. Martin Luther King Boulevard from Shady Place to George Ingram Boulevard, West International Speedway Boulevard from Dr. Martin Luther King Boulevard to Keith Street. And this property is at 200 South Atlantic Avenue, which does not fall within those guidelines, not in compliance. And these are from the minutes of the meeting. The motion was made and seconded to approve the 2023 Biketoberfest Master Plan on the condition that 200 South Atlantic Avenue is not included. And I would ask that you approve the master plan as presented with the removal of 200 South Atlantic Avenue. The final approval, of course, is up to you folks. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to make this presentation. And if anybody has any questions, I have answers. So shoot. That's it. Thank you.
Comments?
I have a comment. There's 7 properties on here that don't have the BTR, don't follow the rules. I mean, I thought the whole process of having these boards is so everyone could look it over, and then we have another agency involved, and they look it over, and then it comes to us, and then we're supposed to say yes or no. I just don't understand why it's presented, but it's not in compliance with the application. If you look at, I guess, page 379, temporary parking, there's 7 parcels that don't follow the guidelines.
Based on feedback that this city commission has given staff during prior Bike Week and Biketober events, staff always refers all of the items forward that are within the master plan area. Even those that don't comply, they outline those that aren't in compliance and what those non-compliances are. And as requested by prior city commissions, it gives the city commission the authority to determine whether to include them, notwithstanding the non-compliance. There was a period of time where some applications were not brought forward, and the commission expressed a different interest. So that's the way staff's bringing it forward these days.
Just to be clear, if we vote for this, this means that 200 South Atlantic is excluded, correct?
I don't actually know the answer to that, Commissioner Strickland, and the reason why I don't is the various items listed in the staff report that should only be included subject to conditions. are not all listed by address. So I do understand that the property at 200 South Atlantic was not included in the packet that was presented by the committee, but I can't tell because in several instances, tax parcel ID numbers are listed by the staff report, not property addresses, whether it's recommended that 200 South Atlantic be included or not. I can't answer that for you.
Can Mr. Morris tell us that?
I can give you some additional details. Commissioner Strickland, Jim Morris, Deputy City Manager. 200 Bush Avenue was rather, A1A was the wrong reference anyway. That is a portion of the property that's known as the southern half of what was the Streamline property. The tax parcels and so on shown in the staff report reflect the parcels still owned by the NAC family, which is basically south of 10th Street. So the recommendation coming out of the committee was approve everything but Hennessy for the history and so on that the Hennessy property had. SIG Global Hennessy, it's listed as SIG Global because they transferred it or they hold it in a family trust known as SIG Global. And so the intention was not to approve it, but everything else it was listed to approve, including those properties referenced by Commissioner Parrish that didn't have BTRs, but that are for parking, and typically that's vacant land that's not going to have a business permit. But in answer to your question, if you vote for the thing as it is presently presented, my understanding of it would be that everything that's listed, with the exception of the SIG Global property, which includes property that once had the address of 200 Atlantic Avenue, would be excluded from the plan and not permitted to proceed. 200 was the address of the Shell's restaurant before it was torn down. That's what sits on that. That's where the old foundation is. But we interpret that to be the property proposed by SIG Global to be excluded from the plan, not allowed to proceed.
Thank you.
Commissioner Parrish, did you have some objection to any of the other entities going forward?
The only thing is, when I look at this and it shows that they don't have any BTRs, I feel like there's no incentive for them to really do anything during the year, which I think has been brought up multiple times. It's like, are we going to put our foot down? Are we going to say something? Or is this just going to go on and on and on? But then at the same time, I know that we still need parking. So, you know, where's the happy medium in that? But it just doesn't make sense to me because we have parcels also on MMB that have not been developed, but we keep allowing for parking to go on. We have vacant lots on Beachside, same thing, year after year after year. So that's my only concern. How do we address that?
Okay. Welcome to the commission. It's been a conundrum.
Good evening, Rose Askew, Project Manager. A lot of the properties you all are seeing this time on the master plan are properties that typically participate in Bike Week, but they apply through the special event process, so you don't see them on the master plan. We recently, July 5th, approved an amendment to the Land Development Code to require these properties in lieu of doing the special event process when they want to have special events during Bike Week and Biketoberfest. They now have to apply on the application through the process for Bike Week and Biketoberfest. So their ability that they had to do it with undeveloped properties was taken away and told during Bike Week and Biketoberfest they have to apply through this process. So that's why you're seeing the undeveloped properties that are on here.
Any other questions or comments? All right. Do we have other speakers?
We have additional speakers. Our next speaker is Sandy Murphy, and on deck is John Nicholson.
Sandy Murphy, 136 Park Avenue. With all due respect, I think Mr. Morris's explanation was clear as mud. I would hope that whatever you vote on, you make it clear that 200 South Atlantic is not part of that, for the reasons that it is not in the master plan area. You have defined a master plan area, presumably because that serves a purpose of accumulating all the activity in a defined spot. I don't understand why that's even accepted into the process. Other people can do special activities by application, but if you're not in the master plan area, why are you part of the master plan process? That's my first point. Second, I would like to congratulate staff because I've been looking at these packages for 5 years now, and the information contained in them is much clearer than it has ever been. There's still a little ways to go, but when you look at these drawings, now you can understand where things will be on the parcel and how it will be arranged. So I'd like to recognize that improvement. I'm very concerned about the idea of RV parking because RV parking and RV camping are two different things. And I think what we are permitting is RV camping. And now we are spreading that out. It feels, again, like that's outside the master plan, and it's opening the opportunity for people anywhere adjacent, nearby, to open up their yard for RV camping. That takes some special accommodations. You can't just run one wire out and say, okay, everything's good. And I would like to see some criteria for those RV camping spaces in terms of how they're arranged. I know we have sanitation requirements, but do we ever look at them? I'd actually like to have a staff person come out and look at all these Bike Week master plan properties as the event is unfolding so that we know that they're actually doing what they said they would do, because having observed them in the past, I know that they are not all doing what they've said that they would do, and I think that should affect the decisions in the future. You know, you all have talked about parking in the CRA before and how these vacant lots promote blight. You've had a lot of discussion about it, a lot of information, but there's still no plan. I would love to see you instruct staff to come to you by a deadline with a specific parking plan that will change this contribution of vacant parcels to blight, because otherwise we are just continuing down the same path, and we know that that hasn't led us to anywhere good. Thank you.
Okay.
Three points, Mayor. Jim Morris. Briefly, Ms. Askew answered Ms. Murphy's first question just a moment ago when she responded to the commission. Secondly, any of the RV parking that has historically occurred primarily in the Midtown area is all inspected and licensed by the health department, so it is inspected and looked at by them. Third point being, as it relates to the staff looking at what's occurring during Bike Week, I don't see Rose Askew during Bike Week or Biketoberfest. I don't see Denzel. I don't see a bunch of code officers, because they are all out there doing what they've got to do the best they can with the crowd we've got to make sure that everything is done consistent with the way it is supposed to be. And people are ordered to close down if they're not. And 2 or 3 years ago, we implemented a permit system where you've got to have your permit. It's an easy color to see depending upon the year, and it's just something that's selected so that you can easily identify where permits are and then look at that. Plus, they all have their notebooks and plans. They spend the entire week, both during the event as well as time during setup, looking at everything and making sure that it is done. The fire marshal and the fire department are also involved. So there's personnel out there. Could other things be done? Yes. Parking is being addressed in part by the way that you heard, by lumping it into the master plan so that the commission has a consensus view of everything that's going on more in one book than in several different avenues where you've got different horses running different races, and it's hard to keep track of it all. That's the way that we've been headed in it, and we're still working on other refinements coming forward. And we certainly consider the comments of commission, both from commission meetings as well as in writing, that we do receive.
I actually have a clear answer on the question that Commissioner Paris asked a few minutes ago. I can tell you that the staff report, as well as the resolution as written currently, would include 200 South Atlantic. I've got the tax parcel ID number. It's on page 379. It ends in 0020. And if you want that struck, or excluded, you should make a motion with the exclusion of that parcel. And I'm going by the tax parcel ID number as identified on the property appraiser's website.
I motion that we strike 200 Atlantic.
Second.
Do you want to, maybe what you should do is make that motion as part of the motion to approve.
We already have a motion to approve, so
Okay.
do we?
Who was the motion made?
So the motion was made by Commissioner Reed and seconded by Commissioner Strickland.
All right, I'd like to amend the motion that it would include the exclusion of 200.
Second.
Okay. That's not a good thing that happened. I'll just put it that way. You know, you're asking a specific question and takes 20 minutes to get a specific answer. We should know that before we come in terms of the answer. But that being said, thank you for your persistence. Thank you for raising the question.
I do have more speakers. Our next speaker is John Nicholson, and on deck is Ann Ruby.
John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview Avenue. I've been coming before you for 30 years about Bike Week. The reason why Bike Week exists as it does, and the reason why we have you looking at these things, is there are problems. And there's still problems, and there shouldn't be. When I was on my tear about 6 years ago, it was 3 properties. If you remember the laundromat, had one working wash machine, no attendant, opened up at 6, came by and closed at 10, and you never saw anybody. The photo shop, open sign, but the door was locked at all times. So it's not open because you have an open sign. Then you had the patch shop. You could shop if you wanted to, but you couldn't enter the building and you couldn't buy anything. So to me, that's not open. But they were getting away with it because if somebody drove by, the door was open. Right? That no longer exists. Secondly, Amy, and I pushed for because trust me, they're making money. Okay, Denny said, no, I don't make any money. You can't own Froggies and sell that much beer and lose money. All right? He was making money hand over fist. They're all making money. But he wouldn't fix his building up. So Amy had staff, fire department, code department, I don't know, it's been about 30 people, walked down the street, cleaned it up. It didn't take much. Now Amy's on a tear for the vacant lots. I don't agree with her because I just saw the sign that she wants. It's in front of a property at Harvey and A1A. It's a 4x4 by sign, 4 feet off the ground, ugly as sin. All right? It doesn't enhance anything. It's not hand printed, but it looks terrible. And to have those all over the CRA would not enhance the look of the CRA at all. So I do agree with her that the lots have to be dealt with. It's an eyesore, first of all. They're not maintained year-round. Third, we want them developed, for God's sake. It's been 35 years. And at some point, they got to put a building on it. We've lost half of Main Street proper to tear down, to put up tents. The whole idea was to refurbish, to rebuild. And basically, we've got, 3 buildings built on Main Street in 35 years? And the only reason why we got one on A1A and Main Street is because half the building fell down into into Coates. Otherwise, they wouldn't have rebuilt. And then the rec bar, that was an asset. So I'm asking you to look at the vacant lots again. Thank you.
Okay. Our next speaker is Ann Ruby, and on deck is Amy Powell.
Ann Ruby, 137 Park Avenue. I can't say anything better than Sandy Murphy already said it. And thank you so much thank you, Mr. Gross, for clarifying whether 200 South Atlantic was included or excluded. That clarity was really needed, and I appreciate you taking that out of consideration here. I think Sandy's suggestion that there be a vacant lot study with a time frame looking at parking, that needs to happen. And I would hope that you would instruct staff to please provide something like that, because this vacant lot issue is ongoing, not going to change unless something changes, unless you get more information. So thank you.
I too concur with thanking you for, first of all, answering that you didn't have the answer. at that moment, but then reading and figuring it out, which I don't think you should have had to do, but you did it. Second thing, we've been on this for 12 years, way more than 12 years, but since I've been elected, 15 years, and I don't know how many times we've had workshops and looked at the same question. So we've looked at the question and we've never made a decision. So it's not staff's, they don't have to do much more than me. Because the question always comes up and it's the same question and we never do anything. So until a commission is ready to pull the trigger and make a decision that's different than we've already made, which we can make from right here. You know, but I mean, some of you may need to see some more facts. I've seen it too many times. So, but I understand the question. So if you all wanna go down the road again, I'm happy to do that, but let's remember we've done it. If we're not gonna move, what's the use? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Amy Pyle, 136 South Grandview. I do sit on the master plan task force, so I have a couple things. Things have gotten better. Like Sandy said, there's a lot that's improved, and a lot of people are completing their applications and bringing their properties into compliance, but there's just a couple things. We don't have to change the whole master plan, you know? There's just a few things that we can do to, you know, improve things going forward, considering development versus blight is the essence of it, really. So here are these, I'm just going to summarize. These particular ones are properties that are, whether compliant or not, these are all vacant grass lots, huge pieces of property in the CRAs that will never be developed as long as we keep going with the same system. We just have to find a way to either phase it out or find parking somewhere else or something, or we're always going to have these barren, dingy fields in the CRA. Properties that are paved, where'd they go? They probably got clipped in with something else. There's a couple that are paved, but the paving is all broken and cracked, and they get to put tents on it and have events, but I think they need to be improved. So those will never be improved as long as we keep approving them. Applications that are not in the master plan area, one in particular that everybody's just talked about. I found out that, the CVB and the chamber apparently do not limit apps to the master plan area. If somebody brings one in that's not in those specific streets that someone read, or Tom read, they will accept that application and put it through saying, well, staff will judge whatever, and then staff says that you will judge. But you don't want to read this whole thing on a commission night and try to figure out what it is. You're counting on us to give the instructions. So I think the chamber, they need to be told, listen, if it's not in that area, don't accept it. And if we want to expand the area, expand the area. I still think it needs to be designated by properties, not streets. Like, here's the properties along this side, and then so you have like an outline instead of just a street running down the middle. RV parking, I understand we want RV parking in some places, but there need to be some guidelines. There's no guidelines in the master plan about how do we judge whether these RV lots, should be allowed or shouldn't be allowed, or where they should be allowed. So prepare some guidelines for RV parking if you want RV parking. And then about 200 South Atlantic, I think everything's been said that needs to be said. I'm glad that was clarified. 777 Corbin Building, I see my time is up, but they have a lease that actually says that they are, the tenant can do the vending out front, but the city pays the permit fee. Go figure. So that's the end of my comments.
I turned it off because you were on the task force.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh. Oh, but I wondered why that beeper didn't beep. So I guess all I'll say, I think I went through everything pretty much, but I'm going to just tell you one more crazy thing that was in here. There's one applicant who actually obtained a temporary mobile home park permit from the Florida Department of Health on a residential property he does not even own in order to use the adjacent lots for RV parking. So you can kind of see why these big lots are being used over and over again, twice a year. They're never going to get developed. The neighborhood is affected. I mean, if I lived right next to that, I'd probably not want to, I might have a problem with that. So in order to have development versus blight, let's just look at those few things. And if anybody has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. The task force definitely pulled that one out, so.
In the chair.
And I was surprised to see that it wasn't in the memo. I mean, it literally says, it puts 200 South Atlantic in the category of properties that could come into compliance by September 22nd. It was in that group, so it was kind of sneaky. And there's a magistrate meeting on the 22nd of August for the code fines, for the code violations on that property. So I think they were probably thinking maybe we could get that resolved, maybe we get a BTR somehow or something, and boom, they're in.
No
That it?
questions?
No question?
I'll just go on record as saying I have long been prepared to sacrifice some parking in this arena. When I first became elected, there was always this issue of who was trying to get rid of Bike Week. And if you do anything to change it, that somehow you weren't for Bike Week or for the event. I think I've been up here long enough to feel secure in my feeling that I'm supportive of Bike Week. But I don't have to support the same old thing over and over and over again. I can change parts of it and still feel secure. So I've never gotten 3 other people to say that though, because parking is always what we're told is a nightmare. So that's just, but then, I'm always looking for ways to expand the parking. So it's about improved versus unimproved and all those kinds of questions. But anyway, yes, ma'am.
I have a question. So the last time we had a meeting or a workshop about parking specifically, it was about improving the parking lots, cementing them, and the concern was the cost. Then we came up with having some other ways of doing it, some sort of water type feature where the water could go in semi-permeable. Anyway, we had a workshop about this, Mr. Morris, is that right? What happened next? Like, did we come to a conclusion? We got the information. We had, this is what you could do, and then it stopped.
We didn't come back and have another follow-up meeting to that meeting to make a decision. We didn't really, that I recall, charge or task staff with anything, but the task is always to task staff when you really just got a question before you. And we kick the can down the road like we've done for the last 15 years.
So, I mean, I'm in support of improving the parking surfaces. I'm in support of providing a better environment. If there's going to be a surface in a community, let it be a pleasant, eye-pleasing experience for people. I mean, I would be in support of moving in that direction. I recognize it's going to, I'm going to say it now. I think one of the outcries was it's going to cost too much money for the businesses to do the improvement, because this would apply to all of them in all communities. And the outcry was, can't afford it, and that will be in all the communities. But over the years, as a business, hopefully you save money and you've put some aside that you can start to say, and now we're going to do this, make this move, because we knew it was coming at some point. So I would be in support of it.
May I? So an easy way to start, I know there's a traffic study, there was an RFP out for a traffic study that included some parking issues on the tail end of it. What I had asked for at the redevelopment board meeting, I'd kind of hoped to get going, was for just start with the licensed parking areas in the area and look at them and bring them up to speed, up to code, and make sure that they're functioning properly with proper signage. Then look at the vacant lots like the ones here that I described that are used in the master plan typically, and as Commissioner May said, if they have a problem with spending some money on their property, imagine if some of those properties were year-round parking. Would we have an advantage? So maybe identify some of the ones in the core area that we don't want just for event parking. We want them, like I can think of one right now across from Boot Hill Saloon. It's become a whole block. 3/4 of it is all grass. But imagine if it became a nice-looking, centrally located parking area that was available year-round. So you say, no more temporary permits. You want a parking lot? Let's make a parking lot. And then you know what? They make bank during Bike Week, Biketoberfest, and they make a little less, but all year round, and we have the benefit of parking. And that's like a small, easy way to start, like one at a time.
I think one of the questions and concerns is what are the unintended consequences, particularly for the vendors on MMB? And that is of concern because they don't make the same amount of money and have the same amount of opportunity for reinvestment.
Well, this won't affect, I mean, where is the parking on MMB? They have vendors, and then there's the RV camping sites.
Which just doesn't affect the RV.
Well, I mean, that's not what I'm talking about. My statement was you need to have guidelines for RV camping. If you want to allow it, and it's private properties, and it's, you know, I mean, there's some behind Cressman's. I mean, that area that we were talking about earlier, where, you know, the 2 properties that they wanted that were they're adjacent to a giant empty area behind Cressman's that's pretty awful looking, and they park RVs back there during Biketoberfest. It's in here. It's never going to get developed, and I don't know if they're running extension cords out there or how it's done. So that was something that Sandy was talking about. You know, we need to monitor these and make sure that they're, you know, safe. And then, if they want to develop that property, great, but it doesn't look like it to me. So,
Thank you.
okay, thanks. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I don't have anyone else to sign up to speak.
All right, do we have a motion and a second?
As
And
amended,
As amended? Any other questions? All right, all those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those in opposition, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
We're going to move on to item 10D. It's the Growth Management and Planning Department, Daytona Hyundai Plan Development General. This is an introduction of an ordinance on first reading. An ordinance amending the zoning map of the Land Development Code to rezone 4.4 plus or minus acres of property located at the northwest corner of Madison Avenue and Nova Road, 700 North Nova Road, from PDG Plan Development General, BA Business Automotive, and MFR 20 Multifamily Residential 20 to PDG Plan Development General, approving the Daytona Hyundai Plan District Agreement to allow for an accessory car wash and incorporate vehicle display pads and a sign plan for the development, subject to certain conditions, authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute the agreement, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date. And do we have any questions or comments from the commission on this item?
No, ma'am.
So the public hearing and final action will be September 6th. Moving on to item 10E, it's a Growth Management Planning Department, NASCAR Lot 7, Plan Development General. This is an introduction of an ordinance on first reading. An ordinance amending the zoning map of the Land Development Code to rezone 191.41 plus or minus acres of property generally located in the northeast side of Clyde Morris Boulevard, west of Jimmy Ann Drive, and south of LBJ Boulevard from General Industrial M3 and Industrial Park M4 zoning to Plan Development General, PDG, approving the NASCAR Lot 7 Plan District Agreement to allow for the development of an outdoor activity field and additional educational, office, industrial, recreational, and retail uses, subject to certain conditions. Authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute the agreement, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date. And Mr. Rob Merrill has requested to speak on this item. He's the applicant.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, Rob Merrill for the record with Cobb Coal 149 South Ridgewood. We normally don't talk on first reading, but you guys had a conversation at your last meeting about PDs and the number of uses. I think you might remember. And we've had some conversation with city staff about reducing some of the list of uses on this one. I wanted to tell you guys that in advance, so nothing was really changing, because in second reading, this might be a little different, but it'll be different in a way that I think that you probably will like. So Just wanted to let that be known for the record.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Appreciate that.
Okay. So the public hearing and final action is September 6th. Moving on to item 10F, it's the Growth Management Planning Department, Parkview Church, Plan Development General. This is an introduction of an ordinance on first reading. An ordinance amending the zoning map of the Land Development Code to rezone 6.90 plus or minus acres of property located at the northwest corner of International Tennis Drive and LPJ Boulevard from PDG Plan Development General to PDG Plan Development General. Approving the Parkview Church Plan District Agreement to allow for development of a place of worship with accessory recreation uses and special events, subject to certain conditions, authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute the agreement, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date. And are there any questions or comments from the commission on this item?
I do.
Okay.
I just want to say this is actually a good project. That it's a church service that they've been meeting at Champion for I think the last 5 years. There's 250 in their congregation. They have 2 services, and actually almost everyone lives in Bayberry and Mosaic. So there's not going to be a lot of traffic either. They can walk to church. So it's just a good project. And I've talked to most of the residents over there, and they're all for this. That's it.
All right, good.
Do you have any other? Okay, the public hearing and final action for this item is September 6th. Okay, and we're going to move back to item 8G, I think was pulled to the administrative items. Item 8G is the redevelopment department, Madison Cove Senior Apartment Complex loan request and waiver of fees for affordable housing development. This is a resolution. A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Daytona Beach, Florida, relating to the proposed development of the Madison Cove Senior Affordable Housing Project at the southwest corner of North Beach Street and Madison Avenue, approving a loan commitment of $460,000 to the project developer and up to $265,000 in development permit and impact fee waivers, subject to conditions, authorizing the city manager to sign any documents needed to give effect to this resolution and providing an effective date.
Do we have a motion? What's the holdup? I'm with y'all. Commissioner May, and
Strickland.
I'll give it to Strickland, but no, I thought I was gonna have to switch seats. That's the only way I can make a motion, but I was ready to move. Okay, what's up?
Mr. Mayor, Ken Thomas, Redevelopment Director. As you know, this is an 80 to 84 unit senior housing project, well overdue in the community and absolutely well needed. However, our staff report reflects impact fee incentive for this project not to exceed $265,000. However, staff would like to recommend that we utilize or allow this project the full extent of the code to allow for impact fee waivers up to $538,777.10 as proposed by the applicant.
Okay. Do we have an amendment to the motion? Is that what's required here?
Yes.
Yes. Do I have an amendment? Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. All right, do we have any questions of Mr. Thomas? No questions? All right, we have a motion, we have a second, and it's 84 units, right?
Yes, 80 to 84.
80 to 84 senior apartment units, and that's considering the other things that we've done in the past. I know it doesn't, when you talk about that amount of money, doesn't sound like a good deal, but that's a good deal. When you think about what these people will have to pay to live there compared to having to pay $1,700, $2,000, $2,200, and I know these folks that can't, I work with some of them that are 65 and 62, and they can't pay $2,000 to live in an apartment, and that's not what they're gonna have to pay here. So this is a good deal. We got a motion and a second?
And I had no other speakers.
All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Mike, thank you, sir. Jessica, thank you, ma'am.
And that was our final agenda item.
Okay, we started with
Commissioner Strickland.
Commissioner Strickland. You have any comments? Okay. Not at this time, all right. Commissioner May.
So this week, or last week, before school started, I attended an event held by J.C. Penney and the Kiwanis Club of Daytona Beach. Fantastic event. They actually returned to the community $120 per child. It was from the summer camp. We had children from the summer camp got coupons. $60 was given by the Kiwanis, and then it was matched by the J.C. Penney community. So that was really well done. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be there. Also, on Saturday, there will be a memorial service for a dear friend of mine, Charles Cherry, at 4 o'clock at the Charles and Julia T. Cherry Center. Please be there promptly. Charles was big on starting on time. We'll see you then, everybody, 4 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Cantu?
Yeah, I just had one thing, just a reminder, DOT is hosting is it not on? DOT is hosting a public meeting about improvements on Mason Avenue from North Clyde Morris to Boulevard to North Beach Street at 5:30, August 22nd, at the Cherry Culture Educational Center.
That's an important meeting.
Yes, very important meeting. It looks like we have someone that's going to be here to speak on behalf of it as well.
Yeah, nice.
Okay.
Yes, Commissioner Henry?
Just one comment, and that is that it's football season. That's right. And our Daytona Beach team, the Mainland Buccaneers, will be taking on Matanzas on Friday. It's our first game. I want to thank everyone who supported the team last year as we made a bid for state and just fell just short. But if you want to support them from the beginning, you can come out on Friday night. And you can even sit in the manager's booth, right?
No, negative.
So it's a no negative for the manager's booth. Yeah. But if you want to get in on the action from the beginning and ride back to state with us, because we are going back to state, and we all can come out and support the home team. Go Bucks. Buck pride never dies.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes, sir. Just want to share that this past weekend that the manager and I did attend the Florida League of Cities conference over in Orlando. And I was able to facilitate a workshop on SB 102 on affordable housing. So we represented Daytona.
Great job.
Yes, sir.
Good, thank you.
She did an exceptional job facilitating for the elected officials, city managers, and legal advisors from out of the state of Florida. And so she talked about what you all did, but she did a real good job.
Great. That's great. We want to be a model of possibility and example in this area. Commissioner Paris?
Thank you for representing Daytona Beach. I'm sorry I missed it. Sorry, Paula. Next time, yes. Just another reminder that Council on Aging has their dining site opened Monday through Friday, 9 o'clock to 1:30. It's air conditioned. They have games, and it's a lot of fun. So if you want to join them, please do. And that's all I had.
Great job. Commissioner Strickland? Oh.
I think we should probably look at going forward to, as far as the after-hours permits, I think we need to take a long, close look at that at some point, maybe with a workshop or something. I don't know if we need to tighten up, loosen up, or what we need to do with that, but I do think that it's time we took a long, hard look at it.
Good. Commissioner, is the chief back there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is in conjunction with that. Good evening,
Good evening.
sir.
I am here.
Could you tell us a little bit about what transpired in your decision and what happened today with the special magistrate?
So it's been a long day, so I'm gonna try to give you Reader's Digest version. Earlier today, or 10 a.m., we had a special magistrate hearing in reference to the suspension of the extended hours permit for Razzles. This goes back to the first incident that occurred on July 22nd, which was a shooting incident that occurred in the parking lot where 4 individuals were shot by a female who was carrying a 9mm, and she actually made it into the club with that 9mm. All of this was confirmed through the surveillance video that was provided to us. So we had the 4 people shot on July 22nd. Luckily, all injuries were non-life-threatening. It took us a few days after the incident to locate the suspect and make that arrest. So in actuality, it was my intent to move forward with an emergency suspension just based off of that incident that occurred on July 22nd. But then fast forwarding to last Friday, August 11th, there was another incident in the parking lot where a 17-year-old, highly intoxicated 17-year-old, was behind the wheel of a vehicle, also occupied by a 16-year-old. She threw the vehicle in reverse and struck about 4 people, 2 of which were police officers. The injuries to the officers were very, very minor. The 2 patrons, one of them had to be transported to the hospital, but also non-life-threatening. Both of these incidents occurred in almost the exact same spot in the parking lot of Razzles. So based on those 2 incidents, I spoke with the manager, I spoke with city legal. We decided to move forward with the suspension of their after-hours permit. So they were served last Saturday night at approximately probably 9:45, 10 o'clock. They were served and they were forced to shut down at midnight. Following the ordinance, we had to go ahead and schedule a special magistrate meeting within 4 days. So the meeting was today. And I gave them an entire list of stipulations that I would like to see implemented. Just a few of the highlights. I requested that they keep staff in that parking lot because to me that was the common denominator. Both incidents occurred in the parking lot involving subjects that were not inside the club. They like to sit in the parking lot, they like to drink, they like to smoke, and then it just goes left from there. When other patrons come out into that parking lot, and there was no coverage in the parking lot by security staff. So moving forward, they are required to keep security personnel in that parking lot during hours of operation. And then upon the business closing, their security staff on the inside will all come outside and help deal with the crowd until they are dispersed from the property. Because what was happening prior to was once the bar closing hour comes, they would, escort everybody outside and then they would close and lock the doors and then leave the crowd to the police. So there was a little bit of discussion back and forth as far as what security can legally do because they're not sworn police officers. So we kind of worked through that. And my view is, even if they're not sworn police officers, I don't expect them to do the jobs of the police, but security acts as a deterrent. We need those extra set of eyes, ears, and hands to assist us. So that's going to occur moving forward. They already had the metal detectors, but I'm asking for more accountability with regards to checking checking the bodies of individuals coming in the club. I'm asking them to restrict bags, so there will be no backpacks. I don't remember the exact size of the purses, but it's basically going to be like a clutch-style purse or a very small, clear bag that's allowed inside that club. Because right now, or prior to today, it was pretty much anything goes as far as a purse. So the accountability piece is huge, because I wanted to make the point that, you know, whenever these shootings occur, my phone rings, I get that sickening feeling in my stomach, because here we are again. We had another shooting, you know, potentially a homicide, and I feel like it's time that the business owners have that same feeling in their stomach, and they need to start coming up with solutions to what is going on, because if it's occurring on their property, they, you know, the onus should be on them to step up to the plate and do more to ensure that people are safe while on their property.
Is it possible that, since these people are on their property, in their parking lot, they can't ask them, you know, or tell them when it's time to leave, or, yeah, I mean, I guess it's asking them too much?
Yeah, it's
They
a
can
simple,
trespass people from your
yes,
property? and
yes, it's a
things like
simple
that?
request. If you're not going in the bar, you need to leave the property.
Yeah.
That's a simple request.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor and members of the City Commission, just so you know, a complete list of the conditions that were agreed to and then imposed by the special magistrate are in the city manager's update that you've been provided on the second page. You'll see the bullet point list. And most of the items that were listed for this particular application as a condition of them reopening after midnight, we're planning on adding as basic conditions for extended hour permits under an ordinance amendment that we'll be bringing back to you. And in fact, because of the increasing concern of the police department, the intention is to bring this back to you at the next meeting as an emergency ordinance, which could be adopted on one reading. It would add some of these conditions as conditions for issuance of extended hours permits. There would be other changes too, which were modeled after a review that our office took of the City of Orlando's ordinance. And as you may know, Orlando's been having some problems in their downtown area, and they recently amended their extended hours permit. We can adopt an emergency ordinance on one reading, and that's staff's plan to present that to you at the next meeting. It requires a supermajority vote of the City Commission to approve it as an emergency ordinance under state law.
Chief, so
So what were the, just one second, what's the change to that you said? What, I missed something. Is that these issues, these bulleted points, are what would be the emergency?
Well, the emergency will be to add some of these as standard conditions for bars and nightclubs that obtain extended hours permits. And by bars and nightclubs, we're referring to establishments that have a 4-cop license from the state and that are not licensed by the state as a restaurant, meaning at least 50% of their revenues are not from food and beverages. So restaurants that are licensed wouldn't need to comply with these things automatically, but the bars and nightclubs would. So those include limiting the size of handbags or clear bags if they're larger than handbags, having a divesting table so that all the bags can be searched, which would be under a camera, so the police have the opportunity to see that on video, requiring metal detectors at entrances, requiring scanners or card readers for identifications, adding signage inside the building regarding these additional, baggage check requirements, adding signage outside the building. That would be approved by the police department, advising people not to drink in their cars or do foolish things in parking lots when they're leaving the premises. The other two items that you see in here, requiring security personnel in parking lots, that's already required. We wouldn't add what's in here, which is 2 personnel as a standard item, because that would have to be tailored on a case-by-case basis based on the size of the bar and nightclub. So 2 other changes that we'll be presenting in the emergency ordinance are, one, we're going to give the police chief, as the chief of police in Orlando has, additional flexibility to impose conditions based on the history of the site and the type of use, the size of the venue, for example, other physical constraints of the site that may increase security concerns like lack of lighting as a condition of approving permits for nightclubs and bars. And we're going to be a little bit more expansive, but just really to be clearer on the types of violations that can result in a suspension of a permit. We already allow for suspension of a permit based on violation of codes, but we're going to list out some of these violations of state laws, the serious ones, like violent crime on the premises, failing to stop sales of controlled substances. And the last thing that we plan on doing in this ordinance to hit the highlights, which is something that Orlando does, is Orlando provides for a revocation procedure. Right now, we just provide for suspensions, a tiered suspension system, up to 30 days the first time, 60 days the second time, 90 days the third time within a year. Well, Orlando also says if you've had 3 of those in 1 year, your license is revoked for 1 year. You can't reapply. All of these, of course, are subject to review to a special magistrate, just like we had done today for this particular restaurant owner. So we're going to observe due process. We're going to continue to do that, just like we've done and just like Orlando does. That's the plan.
So my point to that is, it sounds like the work that you're discussing is already being done, and that's what I'm after talking with them.
Thank you.
I think this is a great effort by the staff in a short amount of time to respond to what is a major issue in our community. One other question that is not addressed, and it is one that I think bears some weighing in on. You had 2 young people under 18, under 21, behind a wheel, intoxicated. And one of the reasons that Razzles had a problem was they had an underage person inside.
Right. So I skipped over that part. One of the main additions or stipulations is, and it's already in effect, I had to have Sergeant Bowers go by and verify it, that they are now using the same ID checker that is used by ABT. So apparently it's highly sophisticated, and it should be able to catch the overwhelming majority, if not all, of these fake ID. But again, for me, it all goes back to accountability. And that was the main conversation that we were having with the owner and the manager, as far as, the accountability over who you have, the accountability over your staff, and making sure they're doing these thorough checks of the IDs. But these new ID scanners will definitely go a long way so that they can't claim they couldn't tell whether or not it was a fake ID.
So then it's not necessary at this moment in time for me, as I thought of earlier today and agreed to in my thinking, for us to say that these special use permits would not be granted to someone who allows people under 21 in their establishment, because you believe that this will stop that.
It should. I think we're on a path. But I reserve the right, if the issues continue, to suspend it again, and then we may end up right back here in special magistrate. And then if you want to look at, going to 21 and up and just getting away from anybody under 21. But I think based on everything we've discussed in all of our meetings and in today's special magistrate meeting, I want to see if these ID checkers do what they should do.
I realize that when you restrict people who are 18 that it is, for me, it's a tall, that's a big deal. I don't like restricting 18-year-olds outside of where they're already restricted. They can't drink till they're 21. But I'm willing to do a lot of things. So if this doesn't work, then that's a future discussion that we.
And the only reason I did not push harder on that for a 21 and up, and that's been based on all the previous discussions that we've had as far as us being a college town and wanting the college-age students to have somewhere to go. So that is the only reason why I did not push harder on the 21 and up.
Okay. All right, and that was my thinking also. You have 21 and then we had, okay. Any other questions? I know you had a question, excuse me.
So this is in effect right now. Did they get their license back? Or as soon as they?
It's contingent upon, well, the last thing we're waiting on now is the signage. So upon conclusion of this meeting, there will be an officer going over at 9 p.m. to check to make sure everything is in compliance. If it is not in compliance, then they will be shutting down at midnight.
And so from your experience, the combination of 18-year-old sober, if we assume they stay sober until they're 21 years old, and 21-year-old drinking, what does that mix look like?
I don't understand that question.
Meaning, is it a good fit, or should we just go to 21 years right away? I know we're a college town, but so far we've had 2 shootings.
I think it is easier. It's obviously easier if we get rid of the delineation between 18 and 21.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, well, you're cutting out a number of people. So people in an age, and no offense to young people, but the brain isn't fully developed. Science said it. I didn't say it. Science said it until they're at least 25. So, 18 is much less developed than even 21. So reality is reality. I'm okay with where we are, and I'll ride with what you have personally. But if it continues, and bar owners and everyone else seems to, I hope, understand that we are committed to a certain standard in this city. And if the standard is not met, we're going to utilize and we're going to support you to utilize all of the resources in your bag to ensure that our standard is met. It's just that simple for me.
My question is, the 18-year-olds are allowed to go in the bar? I mean, I haven't been clubbing in years.
Yes, it's 18 and up.
See, I never thought that. Okay.
Yeah, they go in the bar, but they've been going with fake IDs and behaving as though they're 21. Maybe hopefully the scanner will help the bar owners to be able to deter and know who's doing it.
And could we actually do any testing in the parking lot when they're leaving? And I say that because in my mind, I'm envisioning an 18-year-old who shows their ID, goes in, and a 21-year-old who buys them a drink.
Yeah.
And when they leave, they're drunk, when we're back in the same situation. So can we do spot checks, like random checks, with anything in the parking lot before they leave, just to check? Is that
Yeah,
possible?
especially if they're exhibiting signs of intoxication, then yes, we can stop them and we can make sure they're good to
Is that
drive.
something you would consider?
I would consider it, yes. I'm just thinking about what happens when the bar's let out and you have, these droves of people. So that could be kind of challenging.
I will add a couple of things that the chief and the attorney did not say. In order we are changing the process of who finalizes and approves the process for the extended hour permits. They will have to be signed off both by me and the chief, as well as individuals who receive them will have to go through a meeting with the leadership to say what has to be done and what are our expectations. So now people can just come in and get it. There's no really follow through a process. You can just come in and get one if you meet all the criteria. Now we want to make sure that they have all of this and the checks and balances are in place. And so Ben's going to make sure what we legally can do for people to get it takes place. Because right now, on a couple of items, me and Chief may not even know, or he may not know, and I may not know, and that's going to be change of how we fill out the documents and get approvals.
Okay.
I just have a question maybe for Ben. What is the, I guess, ramifications for a bar to serve someone who's under 21? What's the penalty?
Well, if they knowingly do it, that's, I think, a misdemeanor. They don't always know. They have to have a good faith basis for not knowing. They're supposed to do a reasonable search, but there are people that show up with fake IDs. And to be honest, the new scanning system, which is something ABT, the State Alcoholic Beverage and Tobacco, are recommended, they're not foolproof either. They're much better.
So in this case, that this establishment served someone who was under 18, there was no accountability?
Well, under 21 is the violation, right?
Well, even, so now they're
sure.
even minors under 18 should be even worse.
And it may be, and I don't have the state statute in front of me, that's a more serious violation under state statute to serve a minor.
Actually, if a bartender serves someone even with a fake ID, they can get in trouble too.
Yeah, if they have reason to know. And it's a violation for somebody who's not 21 to present a fake ID. That's a crime as well. And so, they can be charged.
So in this case, has anyone been charged for serving a minor?
If it's happened, it's been a long time. Since it's happened, I know we've run operations, and I know we're planning more operations, but there's another side that we're also looking at, and that's just going after the liquor license for the establishment. Because if they end up losing their liquor license, then that's 10 times worse than not having an extended hours permit, because that would essentially put them out of business if they lose their liquor license.
This case over the weekend, did anything happen to the minor that was served and the person that served them?
The minor went to jail for DUI
Okay,
and
the
curfew
person that
violation.
served them?
I don't think we were able to determine who served them, plus they had alcohol in the vehicle already.
And that's an issue where it relates to just allowing them into, this was a minor, so they weren't 18. But in some ways, if you just say you can't come till you're 21, then you got less people who are less likely to be well behaved down there in that environment, choosing to be in an environment which they can't imbibe in anyway. But when they go there, if they're 18, they don't have to go inside to get a drink. They're gonna drink if they're 19 out in the parking lot and before they come. That's just part of the mindset.
Pre-gaming.
Yeah. So, all right. Any other questions for our chief? Okay, thank you very kindly, sir. Good work, guys. Good way to collaborate. You guys, that's good collaboration and quick time.
Police legal advisor Tony Jackson did the hearing, and he did a good job. Really good job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was supposed to talk tonight and give a presentation. But I hear my sister, who I was over there, I was looking at her and I was telling my son who's going to middle school, when people start going to middle school and they start looking at people of the opposite sex, I always say, pick someone who looks like your mother. Because I always think I picked someone who looks like my mother because my sister is always mistaken as my wife. So the two of them are mistaken for one another, and I say that because she's telling me not to talk too long, which is something my wife would tell me. I'm not going to make the presentation tonight, but I will give you all the prelude to what it is about. You remember 2 years ago or more, a little more than 2 years, we started the Beachside Action Committee, and a lot of great things have happened on our beachside in that time, and some of them are plans, and even Commissioner Strickland's light initiative in large part was started in that conversation, the idea of lighting our city up, the idea that lights deter crime and that lights create a vibrance that makes a city look alive. And so we want to continue down that path, and at some point we want staff to give us, some sort of proposal for this citywide initiative for, better lighting. But one of the things that came out of that action committee was, beautification of Beachside and paying attention to every little detail of the community. And so my presentation tonight was to show you a large part of those changes. I will delay that until the next meeting because I knew tonight that we would need to hear from the chief from my portion of the presentation. But I believe, and I say this sincerely, that this is a model of what I wish we had in every major community, a part of our community. I wish we had someone in MMB corridor, someone on the MLK, someone on Mason, to help us to do what we've been able to do and will continue to do on Seabreeze and on the beach side. So that concludes my remarks for tonight, but next week I will go over the slideshow or PowerPoint highlighting some of what we've been able to accomplish. Mr. Manager?
Yeah, just two items. If you notice on the agenda, I have the Orange Avenue Rec Building and also the Chamber of Commerce. You all charged us to do a Parks and Rec Master Plan. And so our staff did do some fund requests looking at what grants we would need for the City Island Recreation Center. And so we had $1 to $2 million worth of fund points, but it had to come up with what we actually wanted to do with the rec center. We think that it is important, since you're funding the master plan that we'll be bringing back to you all, that we put that a part of our entire master plan for our parks and rec facilities and not piecemeal them. These are experts in the field that look at historical components, look at our parks, our recreation, the programs that we have, and you're spending a lot of money on that. So we did not want to piecemeal going back and forth with you. From the conversations that we had with the committee, I have the full report that will be provided to the master plan consulting group to look at. And so we just wanted to bring that information back because to get funds, you have to have identified use, but also you have to have the matching funds. This master plan consultants, this is what they do around the rural, will look at all of our historical society, and I use, for an example, the Historical Museum, our Dickerson Center, and make sure that everything that we do matches up and not have pocket parks or pocket buildings going on and they don't match. So that's what we're going to do at this discussion. All of the ideas that were received from the committee, they will be placed with this consultant to make sure it fits with us, and they will tell us what funding we need over a period of 5, 10, 15, 20 years. This master plan should go, many of us will not be here serving in these capacities, or we may all be alive in 20, 30 years, but this funding will have to take place year after year after year. But instead of trying to piecemeal something and not knowing if you will get the funding or not, is not what we need. We need to be able to identify that this facility will serve this component based on the recommendations, and how do we fund it to improve it. We're keeping to maintaining it. David Waller is working with the consultants, and we have a team, and we'll be bringing a recommendation to you all to approve that master plan that looks at all of our facilities, all of our parks, and the programming that we offer to our citizens. So the next one is I talked with some of you individually. You know, the chamber is moving forward with the renovations of their facilities. We are going to probably assign a group to work out of that facility. We've been talking about a ombudsman ambassador type project where people who go into the chamber have access. You all have funded some of these components. I want to make sure that we're getting the resources that we're going to have in that building. I want to make sure that we have a staff member working with the chamber to provide service to citizens and visitors may come to the area. People go there thinking that it's a tourist destination or to get information. So I want to make sure we can share that information to improve that corridor. That'll be a part of the master plan discussion, what we have in that location that goes along with our Orange Avenue Rec Building. So I just wanted to give you an update as we start to move. And you may hear some employees may transition out of some areas where we're renting right now to be in the area space that we are already paying something for the improvement of those facilities.
So can you explain that a little bit more to me? So basically you're saying that we're going to have city staff in partnership with the chamber working in their facility for the purpose of?
We have the business incubator space, and there's a set-aside room in the back that we've said this would be great for economic development to be in there for some of the things that we do, and that's going to be our space. And also work with them to manage that operations of the money that you all put in for the renovations.
Okay.
And that concludes my report. I was going to say how well of a job Commissioner Reed did at the conference with her assistant, Weston, but she communicated that as well.
Yeah, I took Western. And that hotel was so big, you guys.
You had to walk 2 miles to your meetings.
Yes. And a breakfast was at 7, a breakfast was at 7:30, the ethics workshop was at 8. I had to get up at 5 o'clock to walk Weston and then prepare me and walk me through the hotel. Oh.
Yeah, it was
It was different than what we're accoused to going to.
We
It's not
typed
the one
in
you and I
every-
usually go to.
Every meeting was a 2-mile
It
walk.
was the Hilton at Bonnet Creek out by Disney. Humongous.
Oh, yeah.
That's it.
All right, I forgot something, but maybe it'll come up before we're done.
Mr. Mayor, before you, I don't know if Ben has something to say. Did you?
No, ma'am.
Okay. May I share something? We have lost another son of our city. I have received notice that the eldest son of Dr. James E. Huger Sr. has passed in Houston, Texas. He passed on Monday the 14th, and his name is James E. Huger Jr.
Yeah. Well, all right. Thank you. Condolences. All right, we'll hear from the residents of Daytona Beach.
Okay. Our first speaker tonight is Marjorie Johnson, and on deck is Javier Bonavente.
Marjorie Johnson, 122 South Key Street. I'm here tonight because I'm concerned about that Orange Avenue Recreation Building. And I'd just like to say that I've been at this podium before and bought this before you. But I'd like to say that you should have, and most of you here, was there when this building went into disrepair. It's leaking in that building. You sat here. There were many problems and you didn't keep the building up. That does not consist of Monica, Kent, Stacy. The rest of you were here. And it was your job to maintain that building, and you didn't. So because of this, you're trying to find out what really you're going to do about it. Now, it's going to take a lot of money to repair that building. And I like to see that building put back where it was, in the condition it was, because you're getting paid to do your job, and you did not do your job. And you sat here and let it get in disrepair. So the building needs to be put back the way it was. I heard his report. I'm not satisfied with the fact that you didn't get your job done and keep it up. Because we used to have our Save Our Neighborhood meetings in that building. Also, I like to say that at the last meeting, I made a statement about people getting up leaving meetings. Miss May got up and left the meeting, and then she comes and attacks me. She's not my commissioner. You have a problem, I can say whatever I want here, as long as it's factual. I've never seen this in the past when we had our other commissioners up walking in and out of meetings. I've been back there and I saw Miss Reed talking to the police chief. So everybody that go out of this building is not going to use the restroom, because she sat here and walked out of the building after less than 20 minutes or 30 minutes up here and didn't come back. So you're getting paid to do your job. You need to stay here and answer and account to the residents that are paying your salaries. I've seen other people out there. I've seen Stacy out there talking to people. You need to stay. We never had this in the past. And I've been coming here for 50 years. And this is the first time I've ever seen it. So I'd like for you to stay up here, do your job. We have no access to I don't have any, so I have to deal with this Monica Paris and Ken Strickland. I want to thank them for being accessible to me. The only two up here that's accessible to anybody. So you're here to do the people's work. I was limelighted in the Daytona Times as a voice for the people. And they commended me for getting the people back on the agenda after this commission. Not Stacy, not Monica, not Ken, but the rest of you took us out of the meeting. That's a disgrace. Thank you.
Bidar.
Good evening.
Javier Benavente, 614 South Beach Street. Thank you very much for your vote tonight supporting affordable housing. I think it's just fantastic that you are moving forward in that direction. There's never enough affordable housing. And as part of increasing housing stock, we also have to think about market housing, because market housing reduces demand, which also reduces prices overall, and also makes things more affordable. So it's important, I believe, that the city hold to its comprehensive plan, look at that and where we can fill in, where there's locations in the city where we can ask developers or landowners to develop the properties that aren't being developed. Commissioner Reed, you mentioned something about owners this evening that, who have held on to blocks for a very long time. They really do have a duty to our fellow citizens to help the city build more housing. There's, for example, several blocks in the downtown redevelopment area that are very large blocks of solid residential zoned areas that are now could be changed to, they're currently designated as mixed use. They could be higher density residential housing. Believe me, I was very surprised and happy to see that the notice went up on one of these properties saying, hey, community meeting coming up, let's go see it. I ran to my computer, downloaded the plans, and 192 new units for boats. Fantastic. And I think this is not the direction we want to go. So please, please, take a hard look. And look, I understand we talked this evening about, folks coming on licenses for Bike Week. Come in here, you were late, but I'm crying. Let's give them a break. Well, developers do the same thing. We want developers in the city. They have to invest money to do this. It's asking them a lot to do it. But geez, they should look at the comprehensive plan and follow it. I mean, I've looked at the coastal element. I can't find in your coastal element any marina designations on the west side of Beach Street. They don't exist. Why is anyone even proposing such a thing? So please, just stick to the rules, and people should follow. So thank you very much for that. The other item I just want to mention is on compensation. The city needs good, competent leaders. Form something to take a look at it. Make sure they know your off-hour things, all the things you have to do. Get it documented, get fair compensation. Good night.
Okay, our next speaker is William Biddorf, and is Lamenthea Collins still in the audience? I think she might have left. So then on deck is Carmen Clark.
We were speaking, my name is William Biddorf, 402 East International Speedway Boulevard in Daytona Beach. We were speaking earlier, I have a liquor license and I can tell you what ABT does on the first offense. The first offense is for more serious charges or fines. The first offense is a warning, fine, or suspension of your liquor license immediately. And all you have to do is contact the ABT, let them know what happened. They deal with it. It really doesn't have anything to do with us. It has to do with ABT. Secondly, I was looking into this thing, and I'm not an expert. You all are the experts. You've dedicated a lot more time to the city and doing great things for the city than I have. I grew up here. I know that. I was looking into it for the security personnel. Do they have to be licensed with the state of Florida, or can they just be bouncers that aren't sworn in to the state of Florida, would be the question. Because a D-licensed officer is held under the state of Florida. So in other words, there's a lot of protections for that officer, because if they put their hands on them, it's a very serious crime. Secondly, they're trained properly to deal with it. They're able to write out a report for an incident, and it would release a lot of the stress upon our police department, because we're going to remember that the chief came up here, he's got to be exhausted, got God forbid, that's a lot of work. I couldn't do the chief's job. It wouldn't be that easy. As for me, I don't have any complaints, but think about this as I have a friend of mine. I was heavy into the club business. I have a friend of mine who's opened up a place called Visions, and he's trying to get an after-hours license. And, consider it, make them have license officers outside. Make them have license officers inside. Unarmed inside, maybe an armed officer outside to relieve the city from this. Because I'm a club owner myself. Actually, I have a restaurant. I'm changing everything. It's going to be a lot more family oriented. So I'm not going to be dealing with a lot of things, but I've lived that life for 30 years of my life. And my suggestion, and it's only an opinion, I don't want to be, strung up for it, but all these clubs should have to have licensed officers at their door, people who are trained to properly ID people. The problem is unless they're properly trained by the state of Florida, it's easy to slip these fake licenses in. The second thing is, I think in the parking lot, somebody that's trained to deal with people, they don't lose their temper, they know how to call the police, how to write the report properly, so at least if they do a crime, it sticks in court. Anyway, thank you all for your dedication and listening to me, and thank you. Have a great night. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Carmen Clark, and on deck is John Nicholson. No, she doesn't need that.
Okay. 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 Good up. They're gonna turn on. Oh, okay. Good afternoon. Y'all can hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay. Good afternoon, Carmen Clark, Daytona Beach, Florida, 32117. Mr. Waller was able to escort me over there to look at the restroom, and I appreciate it. It's on its way. We were just looking at it to make sure that, I was able to get and do the turns and everything else. But anyway, I'm here to talk about the Dickerson Center. I was over there the other day, and the Council on Aging, what they're doing is very good for the community, so we're gonna get the word out through our agency so people can be participating more. However, the restroom over there is not accessible. There was 2 ladies in electric wheelchairs. They were not able to use the restroom. Also, as you're going into the Dickerson Center, where you go into the gym part, restrooms are not accessible there at all. The gym restroom is not accessible. It'll take an act of Congress to get that redone. Also, missing on the outsides of water fountains. When you're going into, Also missing are bicycle racks in the front, but there's bicycle racks over by the pool. Also, that was it. And I did talk to Mr. Waller, and we talked about the restrooms that are going inside from the north side, not facing MLK, but when you come in off of Orange Avenue into that entrance into the parking area over there, the restroom is in there. We talked about that. He said he did have a chance to go look at that this afternoon after I called him on last Friday. And he said that most likely that could be taken care of. He didn't have the opportunity to look at the restroom in Council on Aging, but he's going to go in the morning. I really, really, really do appreciate Mr. Waller.
I know you do, and we do too.
He listens, and he understands. And like I told him, it's not a gotcha moment for me. Oh, I got y'all. It's not it. It's just that you yourself, Mayor Henry, said that you wanted Daytona Beach to be more inclusive. And inclusive because all of us are going to get old one day. Some of us are not going to be on scooters, but some of us are going to be walking with canes and walkers, and some of us might be running marathons. But you have to understand that there's more in the world than, non-disabled people. There are people that are disabled. And I do
Notice it more now because I am on a scooter. But that's what I wanted to talk about. And thank you, Commissioner Henry, for taking care of that corner over there off of Clyde Morris, right there before you get to Mason Avenue. It is so clean and nice looking, but I do understand homeless people have to have somewhere to go also. But thank you for getting that done. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for advocating. And I appreciate it. I appreciate every advocate. I really do.
But I have to give people their thank you. It's not always done.
Oh, yeah.
Just try to work together as a team. You want me to get things done? I can pull you back up just a little bit. All right.
Okay. Our next speaker is John Nicholson, and on deck is Brian Blair.
But he is good and he's well received.
John Nicholson, 413 North Granby Avenue. As you know, for years I've been talking about restaurants versus bars on Main Street. And you do know there's 2 bars on Main Street, all the rest are restaurants. There's 2 bars on Seabreeze, all the rest are restaurants. Coyote Ugly's a restaurant. Seriously. So these rules that are coming down the pike do not apply to most of Seabreeze, virtually none of Main Street. So if there's a way of looking at the restaurant requirements to match the bar requirements, in our instance, it would be advantageous. Secondly, it's dark on Main Street. When you get to A1A and Main Street, that intersection is dangerous. I go A1A and Oak Ridge, it's right by my house. It is dark at that corner. We have many of our lights out on A1A. It's been, first light went down 20 years ago in front of the old Shells. I don't know if you remember where Shells was. Somebody ran off the pavement, knocked down the pole, it was never replaced. There are 4 poles and lights that were taken down and never replaced. We still are using, from Matthew, we started replacing the overhead to change it, to raise it a little bit. We're still working on that. It may not finish until A1A is redone in the future, in 5 or 10 years, whenever we do that. So we need to move that a little bit faster. The appearance of beachside is terribly important. I know in the past, we've had commissioners say that there's no more tourism in Daytona Beach, on beachside. That's not the case. We make a ton of money off our tourists. They demand the best because they can go anywhere they want to go. They're not required to go here anymore. There are tons and tons of places they can go. And someone today on the radio said that the boats are back. They're back in high demand. And a lot of the seniors that we used to get are going on cruises. The kids are going, with little kids I'm talking about, are going to Orlando for Disney and all of their. We're not getting what we used to get because the world has changed around us. So I'm asking you, and I know the mayor, you're going to talk on this, so I have a list here of things. Take it seriously because it's a money generator, and you can't get all of the things you want without money. And beachside will generate the money if you take care of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Brian Blair, and on deck is Amy Pyle.
Greetings. Good evening, everyone. Thank you guys for your civil services. Thank you guys for your endurance in the crowd. This evening, I stand in support for Mr. Ronald Kendrick as well, for his request for extended hours. Mr. Kendrick, in his own right, is a local anthropologist where he's always in tune with society and he's always moving with the culture. Although it may be unorthodox way, but he's always giving back. Always giving back. As a college student, this gentleman probably accounted for 30 to 40% of the scholarship funds that my local organization gave away to students at Bethune-Cookman. If there's an event and we asked for it, we made it happen. We also learned the key in negotiating as well. But he still does that until this day. Not many in the entertainment industry can boast or could say that about their business, that they're doing these things. So again, I stand here in support, and I ask the panel to pause, consider, and do the same. Number two is I think that the city should embrace the Florida Smart ID app. For a lot of your troubles that you're dealing with, scanners where vendors or people have to buy equipment, the state of Florida has already put things in place that are ready for your use, that these local businesses can already use, where the users, the kids, the 18 to 21-year-olds, or everyone simply go into their phone, pull it up, and use the app. It's already there. Thank you. I yield my time.
Our next speaker is Amy Powell, and on deck is Frederick Brown.
This is an easy one. Amy Pyle, 136 South Grandview. I have there's a lot near me that has had a pile of construction debris on it for over 6 months. I want to say 8 months, but I don't want to exaggerate either. And I've submitted code, and it's kind of in the process, but when I look it up, the property that it's on has a maxed out fine for construction without a permit and short-term rentals, and there's just nothing happening there. And this pile, it's huge. It's got stuff growing all over it. And I don't know if there's any avenue that the city could come in a situation like that. I know there's probably others around the city, but can we clean that up and find the owner and just add it on, or assess the property, kind of like when we condemn a building? But it just seems awful that it's there for this long, and I just, I've talked to Denzel Sykes about it. I've put it in a report, so I don't really know what else. It's kind of like maybe I'll just go talk to the commission like other people do about it. So if there's if anybody can kind of point a finger at a way to handle that, I would appreciate it. That's all I have to say. So if anybody has any avenue, they can reach out to me.
Better than anyone else, Amy, you should know that
I
it's a
do.
process and it's
I know.
bureaucracy that is required in part by law. Certain things you just can't do. We can't just tell them to go and.
You can't go clean up just a pile of dangerous garbage that's been there.
That might
okay.
be possible if it's a danger to
Well,
the community, but it's just, we can't, there's a
all right.
process, and you know that.
I do know that, but it's so ugly, and I just figured I'd come and,
tell us.
I want to talk about something different once in a while, so, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Frederick Brown, and on deck is Chris Don.
You can send me pictures of it, Amy.
I don't think you want to look at them. When Amy says it's bad, it's bad. Frederick Brown, 1508 Crescent Ridge. First off, you all know what the temperature setting is in this room? It's colder than death back here. Is that the responsible way to run our tax dollars? All right, just wanted to add that.
It's having a hot flash.
Okay, first, and you all got a jacket on. I'm going to start bringing a parka here in July and August. Okay, the CRA and City Commission meeting times, and I realize it's for your convenience, but geez, you can't schedule two meetings simultaneously. So can we either make one 6:15, 5:45? Can we at least separate them? All right, common sense. Also, when you have these presentations by various firms, and then you say, well, you got any questions? And I'm looking at, 7 people that don't have any questions, and I got a question, some of the citizens do. We're not allowed. And I think it's kind of unfair because, of course, this is our city too. And it would be nice to be able, obviously in a very professional manner, be allowed to ask questions of the presenters. So I would like to see the commission consider that. Also, Carmen has absolutely been a stellar person in the community to advocate for ADA. And I know a lot of times, Mr. Mayor, I see the look on your face. It's like, yeah, Dickerson, it's bad. You know, why don't we got advisory boards for everything. Why don't we have an ADA advisory board? And I would certainly name it Carmen as the first person, where they can help the city identify these places that you might need to think about. Because when you're in the chair, it's a lot easier to see what the problems lie. Food for thought. Bridgeport Heights Park, it needs to have the landscape properly isolating the park area from the neighborhoods, and also a fence, safety fence for the untethered, non-compliant attack dog on the north side to keep the citizens safe. We're still waiting on our park bench. Hopefully that's coming soon. We have lost 2 parks on Beachside plus half of another one. And we haven't gained anything in return. And so I'm asking, you know, there's almost no money being spent on Beachside on parks. There's nothing south of Lenox for 3.052 miles to the south end of Daytona. There's no parks. There's nothing. So Lenox is the only one we got. And then you want to talk about lighting issues that we've had. It's completely dark in there, and there's a lot of nefarious activity. I'd also would like to see the city adapt a crosswalk safety program. I've talked about this many times. Again, I would like to sit down with you and talk advisory on this. The IRWL and the Hawk systems are invaluable, and we need to adopt that as a city standard and stop killing our tourists. FPL is an absolutely horrible city partner. They're leaving infrastructure, wires dangling, all kinds of things all over the city, and they're not the only ones. Of course, the AT&T and the cable companies are also guilty. But the worst part about is the lighting. I've turned in work orders for lighting that have been almost a year now, and they haven't even come out and looked at them, and it's ridiculous. Parking, public transportation, think about it. Might solve some of those problems. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Chris Don, and on deck is Emily Nice.
I'm Chris Don, 132 Pierce Avenue, Daytona Beach. I'm basically here after Commissioner Cantu mentioned about the public meeting for Mason Avenue that'll be next Tuesday from 5:30 to 7 at the Cherry Midtown Cultural Center. It's very important, mainly because I serve on the TPO committee for bicycle and pedestrians. This is the safety. Some good things are happening. We're actually going to get sidewalks on Mason Avenue, which, if you go down there, has been missing for a long time. But 2 of the things that are being proposed are, one, they want to put raised crosswalks, which are essentially speed tables on an evacuation route. They also want to lower the speed limit to 30 miles an hour. And these are measures that are done in lieu of spending money on a roadway to make improvements. They just lower the speed limit. And I think we as a city deserve better from the state of Florida after 40 years of neglect on that road, that we should actually be getting a huge amount of money to redesign the road. Because if they redesign the road and put turn lanes, put some nice landscaping, which was mentioned, like on the beach side, that acts as a major gateway through our city and would stimulate a lot of investment, especially in our north downtown limits. So I just wanted to, hopefully the city, I don't know if the city news has already been designed for tomorrow to go out to let the citizens know there's an opportunity for them to know, first of all, about these speed tables being put on the evacuation route, but that they also know about the meeting. And then there's also ways for them to contact FDOT to put their opinions on the project so that we can get the improvements that we deserve, which to me, is making Mason Avenue a major thoroughfare roadway like Bevel Road is another state road, or 92. We deserve those kind of resources, and I think it's about time after 50 years that we get those improvements right away. So that was it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Very much so.
Our next speaker is Emily Nice, and on deck is Jenny Nazak.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
First, I'd like to just, Emily Nice, 941 North Oleander, Daytona Beach. I'm a mayor's Beachside Action Committee, and I just wanted to thank the mayor as well as Mr. Gross, all of you commissioners, the city manager, for supporting changes on Seabreeze. The special magistrate meeting today resulted in a lot of great initiatives. I especially want to thank all of the Daytona Beach police officers who took their time to create a notebook about this thick of all of the problems that have required their services, a risk to the community, a risk to themselves. We have a lot of support from our Seabreeze residents. I'm the Seabreeze Neighborhood Watch co-chair, so I hear many different concerns about the residents. At one time on our survey, we had a 98% fear of crime. That's just unacceptable. And while one initiative may not solve everything, we are getting there. And it's very exciting to hear that all of us working together, residents, businesses, the city staff, are making a difference. And I'm just so happy about that. We would like to support more review of the extended hours permit line items, and to also, as Commissioner Strickland mentioned, possibly check into a closer review of implementing best practices into those line items, because we're getting there, but we're not there yet. One of the things that's done in other cities throughout our country is called CPTED, C-P-T-E-D. It's called Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design. So we're making great progress, and I think there's more room for improvement. Increased safety means increased opportunities for other businesses to come to Seabreeze. I've actually walked Seabreeze and spoken to non-bar business owners, and they have some real concerns that are legitimate. And by increasing the safety of Seabreeze, we can open up opportunities for those other businesses, but also we increase the safety, of course, for our residents, our visitors, but most importantly, for the young people who come down there.
Thank you, ma'am.
So, yes, I also have handouts for
You can give
the
it to the
meeting.
Assistant City Clerk here, and she'll pass them
Okay.
out to them. Thank you.
Thank you. This is for the Mason Avenue meeting.
Okay.
You could just give them all to me. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our
Nice.
next speaker is Jenny Nazak.
Great, Jenny Nazak.
Good evening, everybody. Jenny Nazak, 501 Harvey. This evening, for your listening pleasure, I have various eco tidbits related to the design of the urban environment, as usual. Parking lots, parking, it's a fact of life. It's going to be needed. However, in a city, there are worse things in life than people thinking, oh, it's not all that easy to park there. Let's take a different thing. Let's walk. Let's take an Uber. Let's take the trolley. Let's take Ann Ruby's trolley. Let's bicycle. So there is not such a tragedy in life as not having easy, free parking everywhere, because especially on the beach side, there is vast wastelands of asphalt already. Speaking of which, the temperature of asphalt can be 50 degrees hotter than the temperature of even like really close cropped grass, which is hot. But so let's stop thinking of asphalt as improvement. Let's be progressive. And even old fashioned crushed shell would be progressive in a way, because it's gentle, it's nature, it filtrates, it's less heat. So we can't just be doing all this asphalt. Oleander Park, that's the pocket park in my neighborhood. It is so cute, and I'm so grateful to David Waller and Public Works and everybody for this beautiful park and benches.
Is that a beachside park?
It's a beachside park. It's on South Oleander, just south of Maine. It's a pocket park. And most people don't notice it unless you're in the neighborhood. But they have places to sit. They've made some curved concrete benches now. So I actually went in there with my cup of coffee the other day and sat on a bench. I didn't have to sit on the ground. My knees don't work all that great anymore necessarily. So it's nice to sit on a bench. And, the public need to utilize our parks. There's so many people who complain, oh, I don't want to go to that park because of all the unsavory people. And I'm like, you know what? If we don't utilize the parks, it's on us, And people actually, I go to a lot of parks that are utilized by many unhoused individuals and housed individuals both. And you know what? Everybody behaves better in a park that is being used by everybody. So if everybody's there, then everybody's going to be behaving better. It's all about that. It's not about if a person has a dwelling or not, because that's on our society. We got to fix all this structural stuff together. Lighting. There is ecologically responsible lighting, so it can have a gentle color tone and still be giving proper illumination without causing light pollution and disrupting the human nervous system. Okay, that's all. Have a good evening, everybody.
Great job. I really appreciate and agree.
That was my final speaker, Mr. Mayor.
Really?
Yes.
Daytona Beach, this has been a great meeting. Good night. Be great.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah. Ms. Ruby, I have never been told before